Everybody please turn on their mics. Time being 6 o'clock, I would call this meeting to order. Would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Would you take the roll call, please?
Wanda,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
John,
Here.
Dan,
Here.
Don.
Here. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, does anybody have a reason to abstain for financial conflict of interest or non-financial interest? Must be stated the reason.
I will be abstaining from page 1 of the claims, but not on pages 1 through 26. Then there's a separate page 1.
Okay.
And I will be abstaining on that separate page 1, since
Thank
it
you, Wanda.
involves my office.
I have no conflicts.
None.
I have no conflict. Thank you.
I would move the approval of the agenda with the exception of item 7. That resolution hasn't been completed yet.
And I would like to add a 13A and a 13B. 13A would be a short discussion on RT zones by Commissioner Heine, and 13B will be a very short note on the appeals process.
I'd like to add 18, personnel, executive session, and also litigation.
I think that's on there, isn't it?
No, just poor.
Oh, we have a 17 for personnel and litigation.
18.
I get that, but under 17, it already says that. At least on my agenda.
Mine
On the
too.
new one, it wasn't on the original one.
What's posted?
What's posted?
What's posted is the one with the poor relief issues only.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
then it would be agended, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
And Wanda, you wanted number 7 to be rescheduled then?
Yes, 2 weeks.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now it's time for public comment.
Turn the mic on. There you go.
Thanks, Gary.
I'm Joni Peer, and I'm just going to read what I have to say tonight. It's been almost a year since I've learned firsthand of how the ambulance service has been operating. I've contacted almost all of you in regards to the service the ambulance provides. I've also talked to the ambulance service, the county auditor for the wages, the fire department for their help in emergency calls, the state's attorney, Doug Eckeren with Sacred Heart Hospital, Kelly Hertz with the P&D, Amy Leone at the city, and some of the citizens of Yankton. They have all had the same frustrations and concerns. Those that were not aware were appalled. I was told by Sacred Heart staff member that you don't know how many times this happens, that the ambulance service does not have the people to drive the ambulance for the medical emergency. When I learned a person needing help is out of luck getting to the needed medical facility, I knew we all needed to be concerned. I was also told they do not transport if it were too close to the end of their shift which could be 3 hours or more until the next shift starts. Something is definitely wrong. When I explained all this to you commissioners, I was told that it was the top of your agenda. This was almost a year ago. I was happy to read the ambulance service was mentioned at a meeting a couple of weeks ago. I read that Dan Clemish was put in charge of getting things done with this matter. How many people have to go through this nightmare during a medical emergency to find out there is no ambulance service before this is fixed? At the time of my contact with the auditor in September, there were approximately 29 positions on the ambulance payroll, approximately 8 full-time, and the majority part-time paramedics and EMTs. These people we depend on to save lives make from $16.62 to $19.73 as a paramedic, and the EMTs make $14.74 an hour. I would think saving lives should be a lot more valuable than that. These individuals take continuing education to keep up on their credentials. The lowest wage on the highway department as a truck driver was $23.42 at the time I checked in September. I've been told the ambulance service will be hiring a new administrator, and this will help get things back on the right track. I hope you consider raising all salaries for these people, willing to sacrifice their time for all of us when an emergency happens. My 3 questions to you are, what is your plan going forward? Does the county need a business manager as well as an ambulance administrator to operate in a more fiscally smart manner? And last, what is the timeline to have the ambulance service operating in a much better way for all the people of Yankton and Yankton County? Please do not delay this any longer.
Thank you. We aren't going to give
Any-
any answers because we can't reply in public comment.
Okay.
If you'd
All right.
like to get a hold of me, I'd be happy to visit with you. I've had about 8 meetings with different individuals on this, and we're working toward a plan. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight, ma'am. But I'd be happy to visit with you and tell you what we've been working on, if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like to have it go through
Yeah.
the commission. And John's been involved in the ambulance, working on the process.
Okay.
So they're both
It's
working on
high
it.
time.
We understand
We
that.
agree, and,
But we aren't supposed to
100%.
comment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Public comment. Thank you. Anybody else? Wade? Wade?
This is for the East River.
this is just.
It's for your public comment.
Okay, all right.
If
You want him to do it at the, when it's Board of
Yeah.
Agenda, or Board of Adjustment then?
No, we want to do it now.
Okay.
Well, if he's commenting on something on the agenda.
We
are you
don't know
about the
that.
CUP?
We don't know that, Dan.
Okay, this is, my name is Wade Lippert. I'm HOA president for the Lewis and Clark West subdivision out by Lewis and Clark Lake. And representing my constituents, we had some questions come up about the new radio tower that's being installed at the, and I think that's what you guys are here for, is being installed for communication purposes for the new electrical subdivision that's being put in. So some of the questions that was brought to my attention was the health concerns of a radio tower, which we've already kind of discussed out in the hall, but nevertheless, I want to bring it onto public record so that these questions can be answered. And one is what effects it'll have on public health.
When, would you hold those questions and bring them up then when we get into the discussion?
Certainly,
Yeah,
certainly.
and that was all you, that
That's
was. that
what
was
I
it.
came here for,
Okay,
so.
good.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
How about asking if anybody has a public comment about anything not on the agenda? And that might save this.
I think I'll just go on to the next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is historic preservation. Bernie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Bernie Hunoff. I'm a resident of Yankton County, and I'm the chairman. I'm here today because I'm the chairman of the Yankton County Historic Preservation Commission. Could I?
Thank you. Sure.
And something really good happened about, I guess, 9 years ago now already. Time flies. A lot of good things have happened in Yankton over the last decade related to economic development, and I really believe one of them, close to the top of the list, is the Mead Cultural Heritage Center. It's been just a real success story. That's been a partnership between the community, the historic preservation folks, the state, and Yankton County. And it's really grown and is growing to become one of the really great museums in not only in South Dakota, but really in the American West. So it's something we can really be proud of. So the Historic Preservation Commission was created in 2014 by a vote of the people. And as you can see from the mission statement, I won't read it all, but as the mission statement says, the main function of that is to promote and support the Mead Cultural Heritage Center. Now, there's a small mill levy that raises, I think it's about a nickel per $1,000 evaluation, if I remember right. So it's a very, very minute little piece of your property taxes, but it does raise, some decent dollars. And I think this year we're projected to be about $114,000. Now, most of that goes to the Mead Cultural Heritage Center. Probably 5 to 10% we use for other historic preservation projects around Yankton County. And I won't list them all, but you'll see at the bottom of the report some of the things that we've worked on. Probably the biggest one we've tackled other than the Mead would be the Dakota Theater, although that's really something that we're still anticipating, some major needs there. And it really does need a lot of work. Interestingly, some of you will remember in 1989 when we celebrated South Dakota's centennial, the Dakota Theater was the community's main centennial project that year and really became a public building then. And that's been, 34 years ago. So it needs some work again. And we've pledged to really be as big a partner as we can in that, probably over a couple of different years. Another kind of a cool thing that we're doing right now, I won't list all these, but we're working on a historic tour book that Nathan Johnson wrote a couple of years ago, and with COVID and everything, they've had a hard time just crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and getting it to the printer, but that's really close to going to the printer. And what we're going to do, we're going to provide the seed money for the first printing, and then hopefully the sales from then on will pay for the printing from there on out. So we try to be a partner in various little projects like that. The original board members were myself, Ken Jones. Ken was really the main guy, maybe along with Jim Means. Ken Jones and Jim Means, really the main people to put this thing together. Crystal Nelson, Roger Hunley, and myself. We did put term limits on the board. So Jim Means will go off this year. I'll go off next year. So we'll have a total turnover now after next year. The current board members are Jim Means, myself, Jim Lane, Kathy Jorgensen. Raise your hand. Kathy's here. And our newest is somebody you guys know real well, Joe Healy. We thought with his county commission experience, he'd be a real asset to the board. So again, the main mission to support the Mead Cultural Heritage Center, to assist other projects as we can. We did get thrown a little bit of curve from the State Historic Preservation Office. When people need some kind of local review of their historic preservation projects, that used to be done by the state. Now that we have a commission here, the state likes to dump them on us, and we never really wanted to be preservation police, and we will not be preservation police. We've talked about this a lot, but we are there to advise and counsel, not there to police historic preservation projects. So we've had, the state will send us all this paperwork sometimes, and they want us to give a written opinion, and we do, but we're not going to get into the position where we're saying yes or no to people. With that, I don't want to take a lot of your time. You've got a busy commission agenda. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If not, we've tried to do this annually. We've failed. We have not been here every year, but we'll try to do a better job. Is that suitable to you folks? Very good.
I think the community's pretty happy with what's going on in the historical preservation down. I heard a lot of great comments about the Mead Center.
Super, good to hear.
Bernie, I think that's a wonderful facility out there that you're working on. My only question is when are you gonna move the train car out of the West Side Park?
I think very soon, and that's really the commission. We do leave that to Crystal. We don't tell Crystal what to do, you know that. But I think very soon.
Okay.
And that whole little village.
And if you need any help moving that, let me know.
I'll write that down.
Do that.
While we're on that, I was gonna save it for commission updates, but that DOT grant that we did for alternative transportation that came in for the Meade grant to move the locomotive, and that's something that Yankton County did, and I signed and was approved, so we'll still, I'm glad you volunteered, because there's still some stuff you can probably do, John.
Okay.
I put 350 up to it.
Yeah, that's good news, so.
There, one other thing I would just mention, you folks did approve, we needed local support for a CBG designation, and that will help with grants like that. If we can get CBG designation, that qualifies us for national funding for projects like that. And that's in the works, and we'll have that.
Thanks for all the work you do.
No, very good, thank you, I appreciate it, Chairman. Very good, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Families Feeding Families. Is Julie here?
Oh, no,
No,
Jim.
no, 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 we got
Oh, did I miss? What did I miss?
DOT
Jim.
joint meeting, weed spray.
Oh, yeah, he'd be angry. Jim?
Hi, Jim.
I brought the state DOT right-of-way spray contracts. There's one contract with 2 copies for approval and signatures.
Any questions? It's a pretty normal thing we do every year.
I do have one question.
Sure.
On the indemnification provision in the contract, are we basically indemnifying the state from any issues with spraying, accidents, anything like that? I don't like that contract, only because in what I do, we never release indemnification from anybody that we're hauling freight for.
I understand that, but the state won't sign that without that
Just
clause
ask the
in there.
question. I'm
Just saying. And I would move approval of those contracts.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Nay.
You said, oh, I have one nay.
I could see your point on that. We haven't had any issues with that since you've been in there, have you? It's one of the things we have to do to get the contract, and
Right. And it's,
I understand that.
it's another way the state holds their toes to the fire.
Gotcha.
I get what you're saying.
Now, we're ready for Julie.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Good evening. I'm not here to ask you for money. Well, thank you for allowing me time tonight. This last evening, we, the Families Feeding Families group here in Yankton, which is a grassroots group that represents farm interests, brought Margaret Byfield from Stewards of Liberty to present to, I would say, about 175 farmers or landowners from across the southern district of South Dakota and a few from Nebraska and Iowa in reference to 30 by 30 conservation easements. And what we have asked for a few minutes of your time for tonight is to present a resolution. This is something that's being passed across the nation against and to oppose a 30 by 30 conservation easement. And I would allow Margaret Byfield, who is the founder of Stewards of Liberty, to just do 5 minutes. Can we have 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah, you can
Okay,
have
5
more.
minutes. To
I
visit.
said 5 last night, but she can have as many minutes as she needs tonight.
Oh, don't go there.
She has to catch a flight anyway.
Yeah.
Just to kind of visit with you about what it is quickly and why this resolution is important.
And Julie, we're probably not gonna act on it tonight because we wanna read it and think about it before we do.
I would hope you would.
Thank you.
I don't like it when representatives act on things before they read them either, if you haven't noticed.
Well, the Congress does it all the time.
There you are.
Well, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time, and I really appreciate Feeding Families for bringing me in. This is my second time back to Yankton. I was here last year, and it's just such a great group of farmers, and I always enjoy speaking to this audience. So the 30 by 30 initiative is something that the Biden administration initiated by executive order on January 27th, 2021. So 6 days into his office, we were expecting this. We are a property rights organization. We'd been studying what the Biden administration was focused on prior to taking office. And we kept seeing this 30 by 30 agenda come up. So we had studied it. We expected it to come out. Let me briefly just tell you what 30 by 30 is. 30 by 30 is an international agenda. It's not a locally driven agenda. It's an international agenda to permanently protect 30% of the world's lands and oceans by 2030. So this is an agenda that is being pushed on nations all over. Many nations are way ahead of America on this because in America we're a private property nation. 60% of our land is still owned by the people. And that is what the people who support 30 by 30 are acting against. They don't believe in private property ownership. And so they really didn't have an opportunity to push this agenda on America until the Biden administration came into office. And then they were all signed on and in agreement with this agenda. And so that's why he enacted it by executive order 6 days into his term. It's important to understand that there's no authorization for this agenda. There's no congressional act or constitutional basis for 30 by 30. This is all being done by presidential fiat. So that's the one reason to oppose it. We live in a nation of laws where our top people in office have to respect those laws and follow them, just like us who don't hold office and who are just landowners. That's the number one thing he's violating when he's pushing the 30 by 30 agenda. The reason we need to be concerned about 30 by 30 is because it is a move to extinguish the property rights in America. And because they don't have authorization, they're not pushing it through a big piece of legislation in Congress. What they're doing is implementing it through existing programs. So they're using the regulatory powers they already have and basically retooling those to push everything towards the direction of permanently protecting 30% of our lands and oceans. Now, as they're selling the program across America, they're saying this is not about protecting the lands, it's about conserving the lands. That's the language they use. But in May of 2021, when they came out with their first report to explain to the American people what this program was going to be, they say that this is about conserving and restoring the land, not protecting the land. But in the same document, they say, however, it's very difficult to define what conservation means. Therefore, they don't define it. They say it's really hard to define conservation, but please trust us, this isn't about protecting the land. So we know just by how they have been implementing this, they're not being forthright with the American people. When this agenda was first launched, we were prepared as an organization to counter this and keep this from being implemented in America. So we reached out that very same day that 57-page executive order was signed, in which the 30 by 30 initiative was buried in at section 216, 2 little paragraphs. We reached out to a county that we've worked with for probably 15 years, Garfield County, Colorado, and told them about the 30 by 30 agenda. And one of the county commissioners that has been there as long as we've been working with them, Tom Jankowski, said, let's do a resolution. Let's do a resolution opposing this and get on record that Garfield County opposes this. So in 3 weeks' time, they passed the first resolution. We went to an attorney that we work very closely with. He wrote the first resolution. Garfield County passed it, and that very same day, we uploaded all of that, and the guide, the 30 by 30 guide that I think was handed out to you, the first version of that, so we could get people educated on 30 by 30. And it started spreading across the country. And it was at that time that the Biden administration, if you remember that period, the Biden administration had full control of course, the presidency, the House, and the Senate. And there was a letter circulating through Congress by the League of Conservation Voters, which is an environmental lobby group, signed by 450 elected officials, not county commissions, not the governing body, but just elected officials, saying that they wanted 30 by 30 put in place. We were very concerned that we were going to be facing a 30 by 30 bill at that time that would have been authorized, that would have authorized this agenda. But thankfully, it was because the county started passing these resolutions that we were able to get that up to Congress, and there was a great pushback that never allowed them to take that step. We're very thankful for that, and it's the counties taking this position that put us in that position, so we have been able to slow down this agenda. These resolutions are still being passed across the country, and we need to get more and more in place so that we make sure that before the Biden term is up, this agenda does not creep into areas. The areas that have passed the resolutions are in a really good position. Let me give you one example of some of the things that could happen here in your county that you wouldn't know about to implement 30 by 30. The federal government distributes $900 million every year, half of which has to be spent on private land acquisitions. So government already owns 40% of our land. The federal government already owns 27% of our land. The 30 by 30 program is targeting private property because they have very little of that. And so one of the things that we have seen is in the state of Wyoming, at the middle of last year, they made a 35,000 acre acquisition of private land to put into the Bureau of Land Management. And when they made this acquisition, neither the governor nor the county knew it even happened until the press release went out. That's the position you guys are in right here. It could be happening in your county. You could be having federal land inside your county, which, believe me, I grew up in a federal land state, Nevada, which is 87% federal. If you've never experienced that, you really don't want to do that. But you could be in that position right now. Those counties where that acquisition were did not have a resolution in place. And so, not that the resolution protects you, but what it signals is that this county is well educated on 30 by 30. And that in and of itself is a deterrent. So there's a couple of reasons why we really hope that you would join the over 160 counties across America now that have passed the resolution, and pass a resolution showing your opposition to this agenda. It's for your protection, your citizens' protection, but also it helps us on the national level of beating back this agenda as we fight it in the halls of Congress and other places across the country. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions, but just to say I really appreciate you guys considering this. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn about this and the efforts that you're taking to protect your county. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I attended your meeting last night, and it was an eye-opener.
Definitely, and I'm thinking there's several people in the Yankton County that would like to have your phone number.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Just quickly, too, Families Feeding Families, of course, presented Margaret, but it is not on behalf of Families Feeding Families. We want to just make sure you understand. It's just private citizens presenting this document. But why does the county care? I mean, I understand our county commission, of course, cares about private property ownership. But more importantly, and I know you heard this, and Ryan was at the meeting last night, and so was John, but just to go on record, when private property is placed into one of these conservation easements, it lowers the developmental value of that property, which means less property tax dollars to the county, and then, of course, every other citizen has to make those up. So as far as county commissioners, that, of course, would be the key reason why that would be a good idea to implement this. The other reason is we all value private property, and a lot of it has to do, a lot of why these are pushed is because, you know, we can, through land trust, through our conservation and NRS systems, they push these so that people think that, you know, hey, this is going to be great, you're going to be able to conserve your land, continue to use it the way you're using it. But what they don't understand is all the caveats and all the information that's not explained to them in these conservation easements.
And they're perpetual
They're
easements.
into perpetuity, which means forever. And so the contract outlives that generation, and so the next generation inherits them, and they inherit a piece of property they cannot develop, which is really, really unfortunate. So
Or may have the government come in and decide they want to develop it.
that is absolutely correct. So I think that you understand why these are so important to oppose. Once again, this is just basically saying, and we have seen the benefits of resolutions in this county, especially with our Second Amendment resolution, but just basically making a statement across the state. And if you note on the back page where signatures go, a copy of this will be sent to the Department of Interior, the Department of Agriculture, our agricultural secretary here in the state of South Dakota, our governor, and it'll be, of course, filed in the county. So letting people know that, you know what, we in Yankton County feel that property rights are extremely important, and we value our property owners. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So how many counties in South Dakota have passed this already?
I do believe there are 6.
6, okay. And then, you know, you're our state representative. Has there been any push at Pierre to pass this? I mean, to me, I mean, instead of going to all 66 counties, you know, start from the top. If we could get the state to do a resolution or get on board, that, in my opinion, that'd make a lot more sense than going to each individual
Wouldn't it
county.
be nice if we had
Yeah.
common sense in our state?
Well,
I think that there is, that's where education comes into play, Dan.
Okay.
And unfortunately,
Okay.
of course, when we had Margaret Byfield here last year, a letter was sent to Christy Nome with absolutely no response. But I
Okay.
will be making sure, I have a few more contacts now.
Okay.
So I will definitely be making sure that
Sure.
I try and have an audience with them.
No,
And
that'd be great, because, you know, by law, we're a creature of statute according to the state. And what we found out the hard way, what we do usually doesn't make a difference in peers, so.
But what you can do here in the county can make a difference
Sure.
with these easements.
Thank
So,
you.
you bet. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Have a safe flight.
Yes,
I-
yes.
I hope you don't have many cancellations.
Could I make a comment, please?
Certainly.
Guy Larson, Yankton County resident. I'm glad that you decided that you wouldn't take action tonight. I think you would be remiss if you didn't schedule time for an opposing view, because it seems like several of you have been pretty well schooled in one side of the story, but not necessarily the other side of the story. So I think it's very important, first of all, to publicize the resolution that they're asking you to adopt, and give us time to address any issues that we would have with it. Thanks.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to go into the Board of Adjustment.
I'd move to go into Board of Adjustment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is East River Electric CUP. Gary, are you doing that? Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Gary, and thank you, commissioners, for allowing, first of all, with me today, I got John Oz. He's our, my name's Dre Wire. I'm the permitting and construction coordinator for East River Electric in Madison, South Dakota, and I have John Oz, our engineering manager, engineering and planning services manager, and Russ Clausen, our communications manager, with me tonight. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be here just to speak on behalf of East River for our conditional use permit for our 60-foot comms tower that will be placed inside of our co-op-owned substation. There's a few new faces on the commission here, so I'm just going to go real quick on a quick background with East River, but I will pass this around too. This is a letter some of you have probably seen. That was the letter given in 2020 for our it's an identical permit or a tower that we put in our Gavins Point substation, which is just 5 miles to the northwest of our current proposed site. Just a little background, East River Electric is a power supply cooperative serving 24 rural co-op members. So here in Yankton, it's BY Electric that's providing the power to our members. We serve more than 92,000 homes and businesses in eastern South Dakota. It's about 250,000 customers that we serve. We have a 40,000 square mile territory, and we operate in 41 counties in South Dakota and 22 counties in western Minnesota. At the moment, we have just over 260 substations that we maintain and operate, and that's over 3,500 miles of transmission line in our territory. This Lewis and Clark substation will benefit directly 4,600 members for BY Electric, resident members, and then another 3,700 campsite visitors. So a total of 8,300 total members will benefit from this substation. Some specifics on the tower. The tower was designed by Ershman Engineering here in Yankton. I believe some of that information may be in your packet, the design. I don't know what you guys all got. It's in there. Okay, good. So the tower is 60 foot tall, about 2 foot wide. It's a mono tower construction. It'll be located directly north of the existing control building in the substation. It's very similar to the construction of the steel that's out there right now of the substation steel structure. So, you know, the tower will be in really good harmony with what's there already. It won't be out of sort. So the tower will be 87 feet away from the north right-of-way line of our property, 339 feet away from the neighboring property line to the south, 96 feet from the west right-of-way line, which would be Deer Boulevard, and then 169 feet away from our east property line. So if something were to happen and a storm came, this tower would theoretically fall in our property within our fence. We're also having it designed to have a break or weak spot at that 30 to 40 foot mark. So it's designed to tip and break over right at that transition. The tower, basically this tower is required for us to run, monitor, and control any of the pieces and parts or anything we want to monitor within this substation, which we deemed late last year as an essential facility for our infrastructure. The communications for this tower are internal only. They're going to be remote point to point. So we're sending a communication signal to our Janisek tower, which is northwest, and then that will go to Madison, where our crews there are what are they called downstairs? System control operators. They're going to manage and watch what's going on in that substation. So,
At what wind are they scheduled? Are they made to break off?
it's in that report. I want to say 95 miles an hour.
Have you guys had any breakouts?
Just curious.
Ever?
Not that I know of. We, even in the derecho, I don't think
Yeah.
we had any
Pretty heavy
issues.
duty,
Yep, they're pretty well, over-designed. So basically, that letter I gave you kind of specifies exactly what we did for our Gavin's Point Tower, which is right northwest of this one. So we designed this tower to be identical height, identical breakaway, so it's gonna be a duplicate of what the Yankton County Commission approved back in January of 2020. Do you guys have any questions for me, or?
So can you detail the transmitter that's going to be on the tower?
I can't, but I have a guy that can.
I can help answer some of those questions.
Thank you.
Just to get in a little more detail as far, or the technical detail as far as what will be on that tower.
Would you repeat your name again, please?
My name is Russ Clausen.
Russ Clausen, thank you.
Yep.
That's for our at-home viewers.
I'm sorry.
That's for our at-home viewers.
Oh, okay. The antenna or the tower within the substation will have it's a Yagi-shaped antenna. I think on the back page, it shows the Gavin's Point substation. And it's, like Jerry mentions, it's the same tower. It's designed exactly just like that. And you see at the top of that picture, it's a Yagi type 900 megahertz antenna, much like what you may have seen on TV antennas, or it's like that anyway. And it's pointing towards our Janisek tower, which is just to the northwest, just over the bluff. And that's the reason for the 60-foot tower, is just to reach over that bluff. I know some of the questions are based on the health aspects of it. This, I try to do a little bit of research as far as the health aspects of it, and you can get looking at the internet, you can get aspects on both sides of it. But the fact of it is that I want to point out here is that it is the 900 megahertz. It's in the 900 megahertz spectrum, much like it's the same frequency that we're using with geolocation, with farming devices, with GPS locating. Your home Wi-Fi uses the same. Cordless phones, baby monitors, garage door openers. And that Janisek tower has been in place for quite a few years. And what it is a broadcast signal, just like a radio antenna that just broadcasts out. And this antenna is just meant to pick up that frequency at the substation. And then send back, of course, to get to our folks back in Madison to make those control changes as needed.
So is it omnidirectional, or is it a directional antenna, or is it an omnidirectional?
At the substation itself, it's a directional Yagi antenna that'll be pointed right towards the Janisek tower.
Okay. And then in the little handout, what's your transmit power?
The transmit power, we have the antenna itself it's a 10 dB gain antenna, but we're transmitting at less than 2 watts.
Okay.
I think that covers pretty much everything that I had in the presentation here. The 900 megahertz we use, it's not a high bandwidth frequency, but it gives us enough to what we use for bandwidth is very minimal. If you need more bandwidth, you have to go to a higher frequency, and you don't get the propagation like what we're getting out of Janisek. On one of the pages, I think it's the second from the last, it shows our antennas that we have, or our base stations that we have in the area. You'll see Janisek in relation to where it is at the Lewis and Clark sub. Our next nearest
tower that we have. We have our E.J. Manning tower that also broadcasts those signals. We have our Irene tower, which broadcasts those signals. And then if you look further south, closer to the interstate, I-29, we have the Rasmussen tower there that's not on here. But all those towers are broadcasting that same signal to pick up our rural substations. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Any other questions from the commission?
Well, I have a question, but it's not techie related. Looking at this letter, it says on point number 6 that no screening is going to be allowed of the substation. I thought one of the things that got the substation approved, or one of the significant items, was that there was going to be screening around so that the local homeowners didn't have to actually look at the beauty of the photograph here.
That is correct. This letter was just from the last tower we did for Gavin's Point. I just had it for a reference.
So what you're saying is number 6 does not apply?
No, no.
Okay,
No.
to this substation?
Not to this. This was,
Okay.
yeah, this was for the Gavin's Point sub, which is in that picture.
Okay, no, that's fine, I just
It was
wanted
just
to make sure we were all on the same page.
Yep.
Gary, do you have anything to add?
I do, I got one quick question while Gary's walking up here. So in essence, we can actually strike number 6 for our public, because this document is gonna be public knowledge, so we
That-
can basically strike number 6. Okay.
This was just for reference. Yep.
So like was stated, our stance is we feel they've met the criteria of what they need to and what was asked for by the planning commission. So we recommend approval. I don't know if they answered all your questions in regards to what you were looking for, but I'm sure you can speak on the issue also.
Yeah,
I guess my only question.
Oh,
Would you
have to-
come up
you
to the
have to come up
microphone,
to the
please?
microphone.
are we gonna go into public comment for this then? I guess.
We'll get to Wade.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
All right, I'm Tim Kellen. I own the property directly south of the substation. So I have the view, the beautiful view, which now is gonna have another pole, right? Which is gonna be higher than what's out there. I was concerned about the microwave shot, just as to where it ends, because it is coming from an elevated position into a valley. So it's shooting down at homes, not my home. I mean, the great thing about being right behind it, it's blowing right by me. But the homes in Timberlake Park are probably the ones that would be most affected. But they answered the question, that wave seems to be around us all the time. But, you know, we just keep getting, it's like, I don't understand how this wasn't even part of the original request, right? Why we're going through this whole process again for another pole, which at the beginning, what would have been one more pole at that time, right? It's just like you keep needling us with, we're gonna do something else here. So, you know, I move that because my guess is it's already approved and it's gonna happen. But I move that you guys make a motion that the field between us and them goes back to natural estate. Let trees grow up there so we have more fencing, more boundary between us and them. Instead of letting the farmer farm it, which, you know, why he needs one more acre, I don't think he does.
I think when this was approved originally, it was approved with the understanding that they were going to let Heine's continue to farm it.
Yeah, it was.
Gary, quick question. The last one was a rezone, wasn't it? Wasn't that, it was rural transitional, which didn't allow for power plant, and so it was rezoned to R2, which would allow it? Okay.
Once again, Wade Lippert. I guess you answered quite a few of our questions, and I appreciate that. The one question that I didn't get asked earlier is with this, I do understand a little bit about frequencies and bandwidths, as we do a lot where I'm employed with remote technology and such. But I do know that certain bandwidths can interfere with other bandwidths. So my question then to you is that with all the cell technology and the satellite with TV, I'm assuming not, but I'm going to ask the question on behalf of my constituents. Is this going to affect what we currently enjoy within our own homes right now? Okay.
I should have pointed that out earlier. This 900 megahertz frequency is licensed frequency, so we apply for this. It's special, like a 928 and 952. The FCC calls it MAS frequencies. It's in the 900 megahertz band, but we apply for this frequency, and the FCC reviews it, make sure there isn't any other interference in the area with that frequency, and then they allow us to use that frequency for 10 years. So that's the frequencies that we're using. It's not the same as the unlicensed that many of these other that I pointed out here use.
I don't know that that answers the question. I think his question was, does your 920 band frequency impact his baby monitor and his cell phone and whatever else he has in his house?
No, it doesn't, because although it's in the 900 megahertz band, it uses licensed 900 megahertz, not the unlicensed that most of these other items use.
Okay.
Yeah, band has there's lots of frequencies in there, and they can.
Just wanted to make sure
Pick 'em
that the
out.
question was answered for us non-techie people.
More public comment,
Yes. I'm Mike
or not
Welch.
public comment, public presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm Mike Welch. I was here last Friday and spoke to you on this issue. I will be back 2 weeks from tonight with a more thorough presentation of who I've spoken to and what I've done. My comment is more general in nature, and that is Yankton County, South Dakota is a gem. It is a special place that should be cared for and preserved as the gem it is. Now, this is true of the entire county, but it's especially true of the lake area. And I would say that that's anything south of Highway 50 and west of Highway 81. Because we're talking about the Missouri River National area. We're talking about the Meridian Bridge. We're talking about the Lewis and Clark Park, the lake. If you want to know what poor planning results in, please take a trip to Okoboji, Iowa. Go to Arnold's Park. I'm from Iowa, so I get to say this. It's a junk heap. They did not plan. They did not think ahead. They were rather naive in their outlook. I strongly recommend that we do careful planning. Money is always an issue. Wise public policy doesn't cost anything. I volunteer, and as a former military member, I know I should never do this. I volunteer to help. I have a lot of experience with strategic planning. I sent you an email of things. It took me 1 hour to write that from scratch. Those are ideals. They're not action items. The action items should come from your department heads. They should be measurable, They should have a definite start place and an ending place, and you should know when you have achieved success.
And we're working on that with the strategic plan process that we've started.
I know you are, Don,
So-
and you guys had a great start on Friday, but as I said, I volunteer to help.
I
I'll be
got your
back in
number.
2 weeks, and I'll give you a great deal of information regarding what I've talked to East River about, BY Electric, our state senator, our state representative, and anybody and everybody else I can buttonhole.
You should have applied for the planning commission.
I'm 77, but I'm up for it.
Too late this time.
It just closed.
No, next year.
Or next year, next
Every-
year.
every
Next
year.
year, you're welcome, Mike.
Okay, I'll run for it, if I have your support. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments on the issue?
I just had a question of Mr. Lippert. How does the screening that you guys received, I'll call it a grant, how does that impact what Mr. Kellen was talking about?
BY Electric has offered us a $10,000 grant to provide screening at our residents that are adjacent to this property line. I received the check, and it's currently residing in our HOA account, and we haven't spent any of it yet, obviously, but we will be looking into it, as I need to speak to all of our residents affected by this as to what their, preferences are as far as tree screening, and I earmarked every penny of that to go to that. So, and of course, we will do the legal thing to keep the records and everything to reflect that. So we do appreciate BY Electric in offering that, and we accept that portion of it. But I haven't really got to that point yet because of the winter. We haven't really thought about planting trees until such
But I
time.
know, but that should assist in the screening concerns that Mr. Kellen had, correct? Obviously not 60 feet in the air, but
No,
the lower.
I don't believe it'll take care of that. But my perception of what we will do is we'll start with Mr. Kellen's residents first, because he's the most impacted by this. And then as we move further into the cul-de-sac, then others can take advantage of that, whatever's left. So I presume that I'm the fifth household in, so I'm presuming that all of us will receive a little bit of that. But as the president of the HOA, I will just take whatever's left and disperse it how we can, just to make it right, as to not, have a special interest here by any means. So, but Tim and I haven't discussed exactly what he would like to see yet, and we can definitely talk about it. I had fully intended on doing that here soon. So, kind of waiting for the spring to actually break. So.
Good luck.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Commissioners, are we prepared to act on this CUP tonight?
I think I just have one quick comment just to East River, is that, we had quite a bit of comment and a lot of debate over this when this was first started, this project first started last year. And then now we have another CUP, and it's just when you have a project like this, it would be better to try to be upfront all the way on the first foot, rather than, trying to piecemeal these things along and constantly revisit some of the same challenges over and over again. I think just on the planning and foresight, and maybe hindsight and maybe foresight in the future. So, just a comment.
Any other comments? Dan, did you have something?
No, I did
No?
not, no.
I'd entertain a motion then, if someone wants to make a motion to approve this CUP.
I move that we approve this CUP.
I have a
Second.
motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Dan, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Should we do a roll call?
Roll call? Roll call.
Brian,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Wanda,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
John, not you.
John,
John.
not Don.
Oh,
Yes.
Don,
yes. That's it, getting used to that, yeah. Okay. Next item on the agenda, Gary, Article 4 and maps first reading.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we should go out of Board of Adjustment.
Oh.
Because this is a zoning ordinance change. We have to do it as county commission, is that correct?
I guess
is
that was on that you sent. I
Yeah, so-
didn't, that's why I put
So
it on
I
there.
would make a motion to come out of Board of Adjustment.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries.
So periodically, after we do a number of rezones, we re-adopt the map and replace it with the new one. So this is the first reading for the recommendation of proposed amendments of Article 4 and adoption of the amended zoning map to be superseded and replaced for Yankton County Ordinance 2020. And the one change in Article 4 was when we re-adopted the ordinance, we changed the name to Ordinance 2020. So that's all we're doing on this.
And then we don't take any action.
No, this
at
is
the
first reading.
Correct, yep. So this is just basically updating our map with all the rezones we've done.
Correct.
Thank you.
I believe we have to open it up for public comment, do we not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Public comment? Hearing none?
All right. Want to go on to the next item?
Sure.
Okay, so tonight, we're appointing 2 planning commission members. Matt Evans and Sherry Hoffman's terms are up. We have 5 applicants that you will vote on. Sherry Loos, Christy Schultz, Daniel Clark, Dan Tackey, and Sherry Hoffman. And this will be a 3-year term.
2-year, did you say?
3-year term.
Matt has been on for 3 years already?
He actually replaced someone, so his term was shorter.
Okay, I didn't think he'd been
Good
3
memory.
years already.
Okay, I've got Sherry Loos, 3 votes. Dan Clark, 3 votes. Sherry Hoffman, 2 votes.
All right.
You got a new team.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Do you wanna, do they need to make a motion, Gary?
Okay.
I would move to approve Sherry Loest and,
Dan Clark.
Clark.
I can't remember the second one.
Mr. Clark.
Because I handed my paper in.
Dan Clark.
And Dan Clark to be the new Planning and Zoning Commission members.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Ambulance Administration job description. John?
So, I would recommend to make just a couple of changes in the job description. On the first page, I don't know if you've all seen this, correct?
Yes, it was in our packet.
I would make a motion to approve those changes as amended or revised for the job description of the ambulance administrator.
Before we go to discussion, do I have a second?
I had a couple of questions. Mine was redlined, and now for the life of me, of course, I cannot find it in my packet. But it looked to me that we redlined out taking people who had prior, who were licensed as paramedics or EMTs, took that out and made them be only instructors. Don't you think that's too limiting?
It's the red line that was introduced is current national registry as an EMT, AEMT, or paramedic certificate of South Dakota ALS licensing.
Where do I oh, I know where it is. No, it's, there we go. It's in my email.
Basically, previously, it was meant to, that you had to be paramedic certified, and it's just basically opens it up to,
More
you still need
people?
you still need a medical background or something as such, but, and you also need a strong supervisory.
Okay. That was my question. Then I would have no further comment. Did we,
I made a motion to
So-
accept these changes.
all right. Now we're back to voting. Sorry.
I need to,
We need a second.
I'll
Oh, I
second
thought
it.
we seconded. I thought he seconded.
Did you
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, we got a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So my suggestion, Mr. Chairman, would be that we would re-advertise this position for a couple more weeks and then close that.
That's next.
Thank you.
Who seconded that motion?
I did.
We're gonna still advertise, right?
I would say for a couple more weeks, I think, and then,
Do you think we need a motion? Well, we're already advertising, right? So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
keep going. Have we got any applicants?
we have three.
Oh, is there three?
There, yeah,
I
we just got a new one from
Okay.
Karen sent me an email.
Ma-
another-
Oh, okay. Karen did.
So are we, I guess, so that's gonna, are we, if we're re-advertising with the new requirements, are we gonna just start again? Are we gonna interview the people with the new description to see?
I'm sure that two of the three know of the
Okay.
adjustments already and just.
I'm
kinda-
fine with however you wanna do it.
I just think we need to get the ball rolling, and
Agreed.
I agree, you know.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is strategic planning. And I just wanted to indicate to the public that we have entered into a process of developing strategic plans in 5 key areas, but we'll also be monitoring and working on plans in the remainder areas that were discussed at our meeting last Friday. I believe that's on the record, if anybody wants to review it. I passed out to you, for you to think about, let me see that once. A
Suggested
format suggested by me. You can make any additions, and I'd like to have them all uniform. Because looking at the examples that we were given and received, there's a process that looks awfully good to me to present to the public. And so I'd like to have all the strategic plan areas evaluated pretty much the same or under the same format. So take a look at this, review the things that you've gotten, and if you have any comments, please forward them to me. If you don't, we'll use this.
Don, I think this is a good format for us to follow. We can always tweak it as we go, but this is a good place to start.
Okay. Next item is 13A. Ryan, you were going to talk a little bit on RT zones.
Yeah, so essentially, a couple of meetings back, I opposed the proposal Dan had, and I feel like, it's not right to just oppose things if you don't come up with a better solution. So, and thinking again also on the strategic planning end of things, that we have an RT zone that really doesn't help the county at all. It's a dead end zone. It's restrictive. Most people don't want to stay in it. It was kind of an afterthought zone from what I understand historically. And I think the opportunity here is to actually go in and change that zoning ordinance and to turn it into something that actually functions for the county and works for our strategic planning. And this goes back to, if you've watched the last planning meeting in March and the discussion on strategic planning, one of the things that they brought up was that, the Article 5 rewrite that was challenging and very well debated over still ended up with a lot of wants on the table from both sides. And I think if we look at this RT zone, we can start to satisfy maybe both sides a little bit and start using the RT zone as something that is agricultural but is open to development and kind of can start to serve things and unique things like agritourism, specialty farming, but also protect ag interests, and then also, exclude out things that people don't want to live by that are ag, CAFOs, but then allow ag to be more protected farming type zone, and then I think this can become maybe a zone that that people might want to actually have their property into, and we can start to look at our corridors of development, and this can start to line those corridors with a zone that can actually serve that. So I think that's a solution to start down this path of what to do with these RT zones out there. And I think there's things like, it maybe doesn't need to have the 20-acre limit. It can maybe go down to 5 acres for a lot size and things like that. So open it up to ag businesses and things like that to be built in there. But, a little bit of a blending that can start it down the path that would lead to either residential or commercial zones in the future.
Anybody else have any comments on that?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So were we talking about basically changing what RT means and calling it something else and saving it, or would we go in like parcel by parcel and say, this one makes sense to go to ag, this one makes sense to be residential, or are we creating another class, I guess is what
I think what we're doing is RT, I think, started off a little bit undefined. They didn't know what to do with it.
Everybody would agree.
And we look at what our RT zones are right now. They are a lot of fringe areas, they're along corridors that we knew that were developable in the future. And so we rewrite the RT zone to accomplish the mission that it originally was supposed to, and it's not accomplishing today. So, it failed as an ordinance. We want to rewrite it to be what it really should have been probably in the beginning. It sounds like almost like after how many zones back then, they were just exhausted. They're like, okay, we'll just leave this to a future date. And maybe that future date is now.
So we take the stuff that's RT and we'd call it something else, and
I think
we
we'd
would- we would
stay
open
with
it
the
up.
RT zone, RT
Okay.
as a name, but yeah, we would redefine what RT means.
I agree with that. I think rural transition is.
It's in
It's
transition.
transition area.
That doesn't
It
mean
can-
that you completely lock it off from anything,
Yes.
you know, which is what it is today.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think the intent, from what I'd heard, is that when something was gonna happen, you know, just like that, power station down at the lake that we just dealt with, the reason they initially came in is because it was zoned our rural transitional, and you can't do anything in rural transitional, so they had to come in, and the process was, okay, rezone it to residential first, and then come in to get a conditional use for this, because none of that was allowed, and, so,
Well,
yeah, I
that does give the county some control.
it
Rural
does-
transitional, because
Yeah.
they have to ask.
Yeah, I guess it.
Whereas if it was agricultural, they could, in theory, do whatever, as long
yeah.
as it fell within the
uh,
confines of that definition.
Maybe this is something we could put, are you looking for action tonight, or did you wanna like talk about it at
no,
strategic
I think this is
planning?
more of like a
thought.
talk and
I'd
talk
make
about it. and
I'd make
then-
a suggestion. I read and looked at and reviewed, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I'd suggest, me as a liaison with planning and zoning, you as a volunteer to step in and help, and Gary, we sit down and come up with a product for this commission to look at and review, and then later on vote upon. Does that sound okay? Gary?
He's coming up to say no.
No, we can certainly do that. I guess my only question is, so are we moving forward then on sending the letters or not? For
I don't,
rezones?
I don't think at this time, I think
Okay.
there needs
That's
to
what
be
my
a,
assumption was, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure, so,
I think there needs to be more footwork done before.
okay.
You know,
We'll work on the transition then.
I think we should probably, you know, because we, you know, if we don't want to delay something we already approved forever. And so we should probably give ourselves at least some type of deadline to, all right, let's come up with and flesh this plan out a little bit.
It's only been rural transitional for how many years?
20?
20?
Yeah.
So I don't think a couple more weeks or 4 weeks is gonna kill anybody at this stage.
But it's definitely something I would like to have the planning board a part of. And
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I think we need to make sure there's some mix in there too between residential and commercial to make it work.
Yeah,
so.
because it really needs to be something that
More
is going to
user-friendly.
get these zones onto a path going into one of those directions.
Sounds good, thanks.
So don't, we have some people though that I think already wanna rezone. Do
So-
we wanna, we wanna stop that then?
No, why don't they just come in and rezone then?
Well, cause, so I guess, so I'm aware, are we sending out the letters or we not?
No, they don't have to have a letter. They can come in anytime, 9 to 5, go in and make their request to have it changed.
And
They
those
don't
people-
have to have a letter to get it for free.
But I think Gary, yeah, like last
The free.
meeting, we were gonna do that, and we're not gonna do that now?
Well,
No,
I
think-
don't know.
I
we
think
said
there
maybe
needs to be more discussion.
It's just one at a time talk, please.
Sorry.
Okay, cause yeah, I guess I've been in contact with some people who are, you know, we approved that already, and I guess we're not gonna go, we did that at the last meeting.
Well,
I think if it's been approved, it's been approved. We're not gonna disapprove anything
But
that's
he
been
hasn't
approved.
sent the letters out yet, have you?
The letters are something different.
Okay, so, I mean, last time we did it, we had what, a handful of property, not very many of them, came in and rezoned. So there's still gonna be a huge bunch of rural transitional properties that would work for exactly what you're saying. But it might be easier to send the letters out like we already said. There'll be a few, I think only a couple that we had interest last time. Take care of them, and then whatever's left over, I mean, that's gonna take months to get through it anyway.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we do that.
We gave it a 6-month deadline.
Yeah.
The one quick thought on that though, if we haven't sent those letters out, maybe adding in there just something about, you know, the people who do want to rezone, they obviously have reasons they want to rezone.
Yeah.
And that would be a good opportunity to get information from them of what we should be including into this rewrite of RT.
Good.
I think I understood you, Wanda, if I'm correct. You indicated until there's a change made, anybody can come in and apply whenever they want.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
we're not
yeah.
holding anybody up. The only people we're holding up are the 5 people apparently that want to get it for free. Because they may or may not have been told they could get it for free, because letters are coming.
Any other discussion?
No.
The three of us will get together and set some meetings up. Thank you.
Thanks.
Under 13B, I have appeals from the equalization process, and I'm happy to inform you that there are only 25 appeals. We thought there would be
200.
200 or 300 or 400 lots. So our team did a good job, I think, in talking to people, and as other people have mentioned, it's not a local problem that just resides in Yankton County. It's every county in the state. So, but what was suggested by the equalization department is that we have our meeting start at 12 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock. We'll have lunch
1
and
o'clock.
we'll have lunch, and then 1 o'clock we'll have our equalization meeting.
What day, I'm sorry?
Pardon?
Which day?
It's on the 21,
Okay,
21st of April.
okay.
So we're starting at noon then?
Yeah,
1.
with the lunch. If you don't want to come for lunch,
Lunch means we have to sit and eat with you, correct?
no, you can sit and watch me eat, and I'll eat yours. Okay. Next item on the agenda would be approval of the March 21st, 2023 minutes.
I would approve the March 21, 2023 minutes.
Have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
John, thank you. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next, the March 2023 payroll. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion to approve.
John, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Wanda, thank you. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries.
I would move to approve pages 1 through 26 of the claims.
I have a motion to approve page 1 through 26 of the claims.
Second.
I have a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same, motion carries. Last item,
Wait, claims has an additional
oh,
page
sorry, yeah.
that I can't vote on.
I would
I
entertain,
approve to approve page 1 of the second group of claims.
do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ryan. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain?
Me.
Motion carries. Okay, last item, if there's nothing else to add,
No.
we'd have public comment. Hearing none, public comment is over. Commissioner updates.
I'm pleased to announce that, like I said earlier, the Mead Building, we did a DOT grant for alternative transportation, and we received $78,055 to move the locomotive and caboose, and that was due to our part of signing off on that. We didn't have a lot of work to do, but Crystal did a great job, and so it went through, so positive for our community.
Thanks, Dan, for your leadership on that.
$78,055.
It's good to know.
So it's with, like all government, it's slow, so 2024 to 2025 is when it's gonna take place.
Okay.
Or 26.
Yeah, could be.
Well, we attended, I believe, an 8-county meeting since our last commissioner meeting at Sioux Falls, Parker. And I thought it was a good meeting. A lot of discussion on projects that are being looked at in the different counties around. Everybody's got a building project. Nobody's got the money to pay for it. Looks to me like opportunities for some coordination and cooperation between counties, so hopefully that'll develop. And I guess we've talked enough about families, feeding families, meeting that attended Monday night. Any other commissioner comments?
Well, yesterday I had a pretty nice meeting at the jail with the sheriff and the department there. They're looking at some different technologies, and got to meet some of the salespeople there and ask some of the questions and poke at things a bit. And so I think there's some pretty nice things that we're going to be seeing coming forth here soon here from our sheriff. So.
The sheriff shared with me in the department head meeting that it looks good for some longer term contracts with other entities.
Yes, yeah, and the
prisoners.
coordination with and coordinating with a lot of things too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, going to be meeting with the sheriff a little bit more too, just to going over some of the more of the technology that he's interested in. So.
Good.
And so it's actually kind of fun.
Great. John?
Just meeting with Mike at the highway department. We did have a conversation with BNSF because of the bridge situation out at Fleegs with the scalping and that of the banks and stuff, to possibly do something together with them, because their bridge actually lies about parallel to our bridge on the old highway, and their bridge actually kind of creates a little issue for us. So we're hoping to work together with them on a project. Could be a 10-year deal, but according to what they said. So interested in that. I did have a conversation with South Dakota DOT today to possibly come up with some other avenues and different processes for the Stone Church Bridge also. So Mike and I will be working on that in the future. So.
And John, have we announced to the public, we ended up not getting that grant for that?
Yeah, the only thing that's not been announced yet that I know of, but we did get a whole 15% more additional to our $3.8 million grant.
1.5 or 5.0?
15%.
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah. So that would increase that grant to about 4.2 million on a $8.2 million project, which discussed with Mike today, that turned into probably, if we got new bids, around 11 million.
So instead of an 80-20 split like it's supposed to be,
Yeah, it's like
maybe 50-50.
Yeah. So we're gonna work on some different ideas that I discussed today with South Dakota DOT. So.
Have we got the breakdown yet on the bridge improvement grant score? Because I know we should have been right in the running with all the pre-engineering and all of that.
Yes.
Maybe that will come.
I haven't seen that breakdown yet, but the gentleman that I spoke to today from the South Dakota DOT said that we were actually high on the list, but that's as far as it got. Yeah.
I move that we go into executive session for litigation, poor relief, and personnel matters.
I have a motion,
Second.
a second, discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed the same, motion carries.
make a little comment when you guys go in there.
Okay, I gotta go to
Before
the
you
restroom
start.
first.
I want her to stay.
I had some lunch at your guys' place. That was very good.
Yeah, it's been a busy store.
Yeah.
This bridge was in better shape than ours, but we'll put another 100,000 toward it. And so that they don't.
That's bridge there by Fleas. And Indian Marks Trail. Yeah, good. Is that also in that discussion?
It wasn't, but it can be. Here's what we had a Zoom meeting with Davis and citizens come. Said, sure, the grant next year, when should be the best time to come? Is what he said. Because he said, the federal government really likes projects that they incorporate three items, water and rail. What's your last name? So he said, he's excited to work with this, but of course he's gotta go to a board of directors for the years. I'll look forward to working with you. Structure, farmer guys, is somebody that was clear scheduled to do some good demos and stuff like that. Nice. Oh, that helps.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Taking care of the issue for 10 years. So now, I think the grant writer is kind of excited. This project is, I think he thinks that it's almost gonna go. So on structure.
Put fishing access on it too. Because the state of South Dakota, the game fishing birds said they would have contributed to Stone Church.
But see, he did say that there's no way, because I thought maybe we could build one structure wide enough to accommodate the rail and the highway. And he said that being that the federal rail board discourages. Oh, absolutely. Just because if something happens, you're screwed with highway and rail. So, but he said it's not a question. Well,
You'd be the, we would give you a special check for that. Well, there was at one point in time, this is before my time.
I'm on my way.
I don't know if you still remember down.
I know. Kettle up, folks.
Okay, good.
there's some of them are gone, like the ones on 50. I mean, there's, you know, jogs in the road from that. But there were a bunch of trees, you know, and that was, and I'm not sure if most of those died.
Well, most of them are too old and they should have been taken down a long time ago,
Well,
or
like-
hit their age of maturity. You know, Chinese elm trees is, they grew a lot of them, but
No,
they
these
could
were,
find to grow.
these were cottonwoods.
Yeah.
That's what I'm putting in.
Well, you didn't have to do much, you went down, you took a cottonwood branch and cut it and stuck it in the ground, and it grew.
And it was amazing how those trees lasted. Well, the ones going east of Mission Hill, those were all cottonwood trees.
Yeah.
Most of them were the big ones. I mean, granted, they're somewhat of a dirty tree because lightning, you get branches and stuff fall. But it's still, I mean, they've been there for 100 and probably 130 years at least.
So what's everybody's beef with 30 by 30? They sure cleared out of here after that was taken.
Well, that was the whole group.
Yeah, but I wonder what the beef is. No.
Oh, the 30 by 30.
Guy Larson was here.
Oh, he's a Sierra Club.
Yeah, he's Sierra.
So what's his beef about it?
He thinks it's a great idea.
He does.
I'm guessing,
Sierra Club is.
I'm guessing he's pushing it.
The 30-30.
No, he's against it.
Well, he's against the
No,
resolution.
he wants to get,
He wants to get the 30-30
Yeah.
done, because the 30-30 is basically taking, 30% of the,
So he doesn't want,
they want to get 30%.
yeah, and I know the 30.
More
and
land
the guys over
by
here
30.
don't want that to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Right, okay, I see what you're talking, yeah. So what's Guy's,
Sierra Club,
really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sierra
He
Club.
just thinks that everything should be put into
Pristine, and,
federal.
yeah, federal, yeah. federal.
There should be no
Yeah.
livestock in the.
Yeah, and that's what the 30-30 is, no livestock,
Yeah.
no,
I mean, they can get.
no
rid of some.
animals.
So
no.
today, Margaret Byfield, Julie invited me to come sit with her today and talk about zoning and some of the stuff that's in Yankton and stuff. I could spend, we start at 10:30 and I maybe got there till like 3. And she just, I mean, such good information. You know, and I was showing her Chris Barkle's red circles of where you could expand livestock, in Yankton, and how there's nothing in Yankton you can expand. And she's just like, because, like she said, the job of the government is to protect the people who are doing what they should be
Should
doing.
be there.
And
And
punishing,
creating economic development.
and punishing the people who are doing bad things.
Yeah.
And that's, and like, but she looks at that, because I said, and then you look at our zoning, that all in red is agriculture, it's zoned agriculture.
It,
Makes no sense, and she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
the original premise of it was to make agriculture better.
The zoning, when they first started zoning back in the 70s, it was to protect the farmers
Yeah,
from
and now look what it's
cities.
done.
It's,
Well,
It's
because,
more.
we have no farmer numbers.
yeah, the numbers,
And the political issue is all the cities, so they have more.
Yeah, well,
they've got
Wow.
20,000 people and there's 300 farmers
Yeah.
maybe.
So, and that's, I mean, if you go like up to Brookings County, they passed it way early.
Mhm.
And they did a very good job of protecting the farm ground
Mhm.
around the cities.
Mhm.
It's been tweaked a little bit more since then, but their basic premise was we protect the farmers from everybody else rather than.
And,
Mhm.
So, but here, that didn't fly.
you know,
It was a lot of, here, it was a lot of, well, we don't need anybody more regulation in Yankton County.
there was a development along the Jim River that somebody was gonna make, and he put a whole bunch of big, cabin, or not cabins, trailers and stuff like that, and he was the, what's his name?
Yeah, he was a realtor.
Yeah, Andy Thompson,
Thompson.
Andy Thompson.
Yeah.
And he was developing this, cause he could get this ground that nobody
For
wanted.
Right,
For
and
a
he's
little
gonna put
bit nothing.
trailer houses?
Well, he was
Oh,
selling
yeah,
housing
well,
lots.
you've gone
Oh.
around
He's
Jim
selling
Howard.
housing
Yeah,
lots,
I mean,
yeah.
he was developing that. There were maybe 2 or 3 houses along
Where
there.
is this?
Along the Jim River.
East of 444,
Yeah.
along the Jim River,
Like,
Well,
from
actually,
Fleets?
east of Fleets.
actually from Mission Hill,
Oh.
Mission Hill going west.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Cause he was
gotcha.
doing
It's
that.
east of 444.
Because earlier in one year, it went through the culvert by, well, John Gunderson.
Yeah.
Where he lived there. It went through the culvert going south, and then later, because it was months, that was a couple months later than what it went north through that.
Well, once it got down there and flattened out,
Yeah.
then it
But,
took a while to
but,
get rid of it.
but it was, the fish were going, actually
yeah.
going over on 448.
440.
Yeah, right, going through our,
Yeah.
because I have water in the machine shed.
Oh, yeah, we had.
That was when, that's when the culvert.
Animals and everything else rolling down here when that dam went out, because
Well, how
on
much, how
that,
big is that dam?
they
And where is it from
redid it.
now?
Huh?
Where is it from?
It's west of Menlo and north.
It's on Jim River.
Right there. It's this one right here.
Did you hear Hill City had 30 inches of snow?
Yeah, would that been fun?
I'm gonna be out there in about a month, here at the end of the month, so.
I know, I'm going there next week.
Yeah, that's the Menlo Dam right there after it was
That
rebuilt.
is?
Yep.
That is?
Yep. Yep. Here's the boat
So it's
ramp.
holding back quite a bit of water.
Yeah, it's a, I would say a 5-10 acre lake.
So that's on the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
That's about
it was probably bigger than
And
there.
so it was probably built during the.
Yeah, during the
30s,
30s, yeah, yeah.
To be as a way of conserving, holding
Yeah,
back water.
well, I was pretty sure
Yeah.
it was a CCC dam. No, I think it was a game fishing park dam, to tell you the truth.
It might have been, because see,
Yeah.
they did Marindal,
Yeah.
and that was, I think, just about
I
the
think
last
that's
one.
what came back and
Yeah.
fixed it is the GFP.
Yeah.
But there's about 6 farmers down below that. But that's where all the animals and the propane tanks, because it
Full of water.
washed
In
through their yards.
1994.
Yeah.
Cause I know that, I remember that, cause that was the start of the wet years. My dad was
Yeah.
a township board, if I remember. his
Yeah,
name.
yeah, it
And my
would've been.
sister graduated that spring, and it was just, and I
Well,
just remember raining and raining.
That's when the
Yeah.
lake started
Yes,
refilling up.
Lake Sinai started filling
Yeah.
up, and township roads were going underwater.
Yeah.
And,
all that
and
north,
it was
all that
several
northeast
floods,
part of the
Yeah.
country, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of acres that up there that they farmed that are flooded
They just-
still,
Yes, they still are.
you know.
Yeah, they still
Because
are.
that came down the gym. I mean, that was one of the highest times where the gym was the
Yeah,
highest.
well, that's the reason that,
How long did it take, so when that dam broke, how long did it take for that water to reach down here then to Michigan?
about 2 days,
2 days.
yeah.
So what
about
did it
2
do
days.
to like the colonies? Cause the colonies are south of that, right?
Yeah, though they were sandbagging,
Were they?
oh yeah, everybody was doing whatever they could to keep that puppy at bay.
Cause even Maxwell, I think is, that would be south of the.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Cause we were out helping them sandbag this last time, when, was it 2019 or was spring when we had that, we were, we were, yeah, when they're building, we're moving that dirt and stuff, and that was kinda scary, you know, so I can't even imagine
Yeah.
if that would break, how much water that
Water
would be at
is
one
definitely-
time. So there's a dam at Menno, where else, when you go up the gym?
Oh, up to the, well,
Is there one at,
the, big ones,
so there's one at Mitchell,
Mitchell,
Huron,
Huron,
What's the little town? The little county capital, because there's,
Oh,
that's
Albert.
about it, yeah,
Albert,
Albert,
is
that's
there one?
just
there
about,
isn't one at all.
yeah, it's 3-4 foot high.
or is it still?
Oh, you mean the dam, in the gym?
Yeah, in
Oh,
the
on the
gym,
gym,
yeah,
yeah.
on the gym.
Well, see, this is a fun part. Jim River Water, at one time wanted to get rid of all the dams in the gym. And the only dams they didn't get rid of on the gym are the ones that are downstream of State Highway.
Yeah.
You think pretty reason why?
So the only dams they didn't,
Yep, they couldn't, were the ones below the State Highway dam, the bridges.
one that went through, cause see,
The first one, no, the third one was taken out in the late twenties.
was it late?
Yeah, it was the late twenties, that one went back
And then they
right away.
switched over, because one was on the Milwaukee that goes
Yeah.
through your
And
place.
another one by Mission.
And there was
Hill.
two that went
That
through
was,
Mission Hill.
yeah, there was two Mission Hill, and the one that was operating in Mission Hill, that came out in the late seventies.
But the first one came out in the forties, before I was born. I
Yeah.
think about 45, because Harold Bagstead, he was the one that did that, because when we were doing the second one, and talking about how that would get done, well, Harold Bagstead was the one that bought all of that between Mission Hill and halfway out to bottom. Because the railroad would sell, railroad wants $1,000 or
Yeah.
whatever it was to do it. Well, everybody just said, Harold, you go in and buy this,
Buy it.
and then we
Did it.
parceled it out to everybody. Just because Harold, his house was built out of the building that used to be the state capitol there when we were in.
Really?
Oh, that old farmstead, yeah.
Yeah, his house, I mean, that was.
Yeah, and they have one of the original homesteading agreements
Mhm.
where Yankton couldn't come and try to steal it. See, because Yankton claimed that old railroad from Yankton out because, they supplied the bonds for it.
Okay.
No, they
But
actually.
if you, no,
Yeah.
no, they got it, they didn't buy it.
My grandpa, I've got a document deed for grandpa selling that parcel, but then.
Well, the railroad, yeah.
To the
But-
railroad actually, no, they bought it from Sioux City, they bought it from Yankton City.
Yeah,
And then,
when the
and
railroad
they
went
sold
out,
it to the railroad, yeah.
and then when the railroad
Yeah.
ran out, the Yankton claimed it had it back, unless.
Well, no, cause they,
You could go back into the original deeds,
Right.
and if you still owned it from when the homesteading grant came through,
You could,
you got the land back.
right.
yeah.
Because there was only 2 parcels on that piece that happened to.
Really?
And one of them's Colson's out here east of town,
Okay.
where you go, North Alley back, there's a stretch there that if you look at the Yankton Bike Trail, you have to come out to 309th Street and go to East Side Drive and come back in and go in again.
Gotcha.
So it was an interesting thing back then to get it out of the, I mean, I think we paid $50 an acre for our 3 acres or something like that. That we ended up buying. Because they wanted to bring it out to the river, Jim River
Mhm.
at the time, and then they didn't care about the rest of it. You know, the city.
Right,
Yankton,
right, right. So we can-
Whatever they owned.
Well, they owned it
Other-
up through north of Ballin, up to the county.
Yeah.
And then I think
Yeah.
another one's took over up there. Cause Harold Banks did, when we were settling talking about that. And one of the guys who works on the city, one of the lawyers, he says the city has no idea what kind of a can of worms.
They opened up,
opening up.
that was Getz' time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That was,
So you're learning all kinds of stuff today.
I am learning the history of Yankton County, yeah. That's the thing, is like, when people talk to Dave, and he's just like, yeah, look, I know these people, I'm like, and I normally go home, and like, okay, tell me who these people are, how are they related,
Yeah.
are they involved, you know?
Where did they come from?
Right,
Where they,
you know, when I go back home to my hometown, that's no problem, I know who's related to who, and, you know, but, yeah, it's just still trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, and the zoning out there at the lake is kind of interesting. And that-
Yeah, we were just up at Spirit Lake 2 weeks ago, Dave and I went up there, and, took a little and stuff, and yeah, it's interesting,
Well, and they started building now and go back
Yeah.
when.
yeah,
you
but I'd
know.
like to go back and go.
in
on
the
that part.
30s or whatever.
Yeah, it's been,
Well,
yeah.
we went over there when I was a senior in high school. That's where we went, the first part.
Senior skip
Senior
train.
skip day or
Skip
senior day.
Yeah, and that, they had, cause they had the boat over there. I mean,
You did,
Paddle
did you
wheeler.
take the girls along with you on a trip and go by yourselves?
No.
Or did you have a chaperone?
we had shot.
Oh, jeez. What a deal.
You.
I can't imagine, you don't wanna know.
You know, the
Ferris wheel?
the
Roller-
tunnel,
Oh, no.
the tunnel
yeah.
that you walk through, John Cook, it took 3 of us to get him out of there, cause he went down and he couldn't get up again, and he couldn't, you know, going through. And it took 3 of us to get him out of there, literally. I
You know,
don't know if you remember, John.
But, you know, you start building something that early, and
Oh, it was,
piecemeal. You know, if somebody wanted a 10x10 lot, I sold them a 10x10
Yeah,
lot.
it is very much piecemeal.
You know,
Yeah.
and so, what can you do?
Can you undo things? No.
You can't really undo things, can you make them complete or not complete?
cause what's the name of
It's
the
all
park?
the people that, Arns Park,
Arms Park, yeah.
you know, all the people that own it, own it. You know,
Yeah.
if they wanna put a trashy trailer on there.
And there is, and that's the thing, is because you'll have these wicked beautiful resort
Have you seen
skyrises
some of the?
next to this house that looks like it was built in the 1930s.
Yeah.
You know,
It was,
Yeah, it was.
and it hasn't been fixed up.
And it probably
since.
wasn't a house built there, it was
No.
2 shacks moved in,
Yeah.
you know, it was two summer kitchens that got moved in.
Just being a regular person, a lot of times I'll use slang words and you take that term.
the confrontation continues.
She used the word as slang. You can actually look it up in the dictionary. There is a definition that means stupid.
Sean says he spoke up because his son can't.
But I can't imagine. all that traffic.
Yeah. Then you go,
That's it.
yeah,
So
one
I don't
item.
know how they're gonna do that.
It's like 46.
Yeah, that'll be a joy.
And I mean, they're starting, I mean, they should be
Today?
shutting the bottom.
Today they were supposed to stay, but it rained, I think, so
Oh,
they
so
didn't
they-
bother to shut it down.
Okay.
They act like they were there this morning, or this afternoon.
You did, and they did shut down. Okay.
I think just because, and I think they're just talking about it, so they do get people used to going a different direction.
Okay.
'Cause I gotta email them back, tell them to send them down 19 instead of 10.
Yeah.
Because my traffic will double on 309th Street. Just because everybody gets the, oh, it's shut off. Now I put it into my Google, which way do I go?
Yeah.
And they send them down the county line.
It comes to Mullen, it comes around
Yeah.
that one, and then it goes
Sends it down
south,
again on 309th
down to
Street.
39th, and then it takes off.
You would not believe how many seminars go by my house. Because it takes time.
Well, Max Drive.
Hey, family lead democracy?
If you
All right, Wisconsin,
come
this is
Mac
it.
Road
If you
into
support women's rights,
Calumet
reproductive freedom, if you support LGBTQ rights, common sense gun reform, public schools and
on the gravel
education.
road from the east to East Side Drive.
Oh, jeepers.
Yeah, and they can't make the turn
No.
on the gravel road. Cliff has pulled 3 or 4 guys out of the ditch.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they come in and they try to make the curve.
Yeah, because you
And they
look,
just can't do
yeah,
it.
you look out and here's this, you know, freight.
I mean, once you
Like-
look out there, and go, this is a gravel road,
Yeah,
why am
exactly.
I on this road?
Right, right, right.
They're so used to just punching it in. Well, it's like going to Lennox from my place. It took me down through Hammer Hill.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I mean,
I don't
that's,
ever let Leanne take me by Google anymore.
it,
Not unless we're in, like, Sioux Falls or someplace like that.
Yeah.
Then it'll get you there reasonably safe, but,
oh, my kid in Minneapolis.
yeah.
How do people find this?
Oh, is that a map?
Oh, no,
Is that a map? Is that a
I
map?
know, but still, you know.
well, all of the years we drove to Sioux City.
Yeah.
On the well, I mean, cause they were
Or you
putting
learn.
the interstate in.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no interstate
No, you
Did you hear, Hill City got 30 inches of snow today?
30 inches
Yeah,
today?
yeah.
Yep. Where at? Hill City.
We're supposed to get 26 inches of snow, and I'm like, seriously, here?
Hill City, 30 inches of snow. Hill City.
It'll all melt in weeks anyway. It's not like it's November. Although Cabby
I'm
would
not
be a
sure.
kind of a suck deal with 30 inches of snow. All right, I'd move to go back on the record into
got-
regular session.
We got one
He's on his
commissioner
way.
coming.
I'll second.
Motion to come back into session. Second? I'll second it.
I did already.
Oh, you did, Dan. Okay, thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're out of executive session.
With regard to county welfare and poor relief, I would move to deny CW 22-4-021 in the amount of $6,569.21.
I have
I'll
a
second.
motion. I have a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
I would further move to recommend payment of CW 23-002 in the amount of $1,250.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
I would further move to put a Yankton County employee on suspension,
Second. Second.
unpaid suspension, just to clarify.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Thanks, Ryan.
A little fast on it.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
And I'm gonna abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. One abstention. Items for the next meeting.
I believe we are going to talk about, in executive session, about that employee, not? So we'll have executive session on personnel. Potentially on litigation, and potentially on poor relief.
I think it's important too that we remind everybody the meeting will be on Monday the 17th and not the 18th because of.
I forgot that.
Because of Pier. So just so the public awares, it'll be on a different, same time, different day.
Day,
So it'll be a day earlier.
unless there's a blizzard.
Well, anything's possible.
And you guys have, the rooms are all booked at the Ramcota.
Closer, well, no, I shouldn't say that.
That's where everything is, so.
All right, I move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We are done.